I press on game start, so it's going to be 3, 2, 1, go. Fire us up past our quick cinematic. Okay, so we have these little intro cutscenes here that aren't going to take but a quick moment. First start, we're going to switch to our zip line and zip right in. Gets us in quicker. The first thing you'll notice is that Batman's combat prowess, much to the character's flavor, is quite good. He has a really long jab, does really good damage, and it's your combo starter. Get the batarangs in a minute. On Mania, batarangs aren't that great, but it was good at that. So this game also has a block button. This is significant because beat-em-ups don't normally have block buttons, and this game is a very good reason as to why. You can use the block button to cancel your punch string at any point before knock an enemy down. That's really, really strong because it lets you basically do an infinite on enemies. You can see here, these guys just aren't getting knocked down. I did hit a snafu on that one guy that appeared there. So essentially, as soon as we touch an enemy, the goal is to make sure he doesn't survive. Usually it works. I did do a bit of walking forward there. Actually may have found a new strat with that even. This section's a little bit trolly. These rocket guys really make things problematic. Had to wait out that guy there and follow him up there. Another part of the moveset here, we're going to do a grab. Throw this guy into the windshield for really cool sound effect. And then we have our test tube. Test tube is a really good item. It clears the screen of all enemies. The only downside to it is we only have a limited number of uses of it per stage. In most stages, we're only going to have 3, but in a couple stages, we're actually going to have access to more than that. I think a couple stages are going to allow us to have 4. So under the Gotham design, we're going to zip line this down, drag this guy over, drop a test tube to finish off everybody here. Let these motorcycles spawn, do the cape swipe, and that takes them both out. That'll move us on to our second segment of the first stage. So off the beat 'em up path for a moment, we're gonna essentially here all we're gonna do is hold right. And this is an excellent strat to have here, because as long as you hold right here, nothing can interact with you, except for that one guy who can fall on you. But yeah, the torches, the guys that try to punch you, they just can't get anywhere with that. So onto our boss, we have the stun gun. That little cinematic moment there. Just a couple hits. Wouldn't be too big of a deal though. To explain what happened in that fight, they left a part of the cinematic sense in this particular fight where you can pull the wall into the back of his head, which does a whopping 64 damage. That's as much as about, I think it's as many as 8 jabs. Yo, Looking Toad, thank you so much for the raid. And welcome everyone to Bring 'em Over 3. And from there, you just finish them off with batarangs, so that's your only other form of offense in that stage. So on to stage 2, got trolled a little bit there. This is the first time we actually can really get trolled by the game. This is the longest stage in the game, which is weird to say for stage 2 in any game. Nice little bit of grouping there. Let this motorcycle guy come in, throw that. So again, batarangs on easier difficulties are actually pretty great. On Mania, they're not that useful, except for taking out motorcycles. It kills them in one hit. Take out that guy there. Drop a test tube. I use one there because the guy in the green clown in the top right has a lot of health. Like, he has like boss level health, but he dies in one test tube, so there's no reason to not use it there. It's just faster. This guy come down. Some more examples of the great sound design in this game. All the knife guys get splatted into the background. That was unfortunate. Didn't want to knock that guy out of the cartwheel. That cost us a little bit of time. Walk over to this guy. So here's one of the major differences between Mania and Easy. Explosives, which is the category I primarily run, and is the most popular category. For Easy, explosives do a lot of damage to enemies. So if I were to like either throw an explosive back at one of those guys, missed the hit there, or if I were to walk one over an explosive, they would take a lot more damage than they do on Mania. So on Mania, it's not optimal to actually use them because it knocks them down and it doesn't even kill them. So why would you use it? We got one last guy here. Move on to our next room. Yo, I see another raid. Alright, so side-scrolling stage here. Take a quick damage boost so that guy will slide right through us, unscathed. Have to dodge that guy, though. That guy knocks us to the left. He's kind of mean. Missed the second hit. No big deal, though. DP Whale, thank you so much for the raid. These guys getting off the elevator, we can ignore them for the most part. As soon as the elevator door dings here, I'm just going to move. One guy decided to follow us. That's unfortunate. It doesn't cost us time. It just makes me have to do additional inputs when I don't want to. Take that guy out. This is just going to be damage boost city. I'm going to take a quick hit from that torch because it does the least amount of damage to us out of any obstacle here. The logs do a lot, so I'm specifically trying to avoid those. And it actually costs us a lot of time to fall to the ground when hit by a log. We're going to move on over here to the window, jump out for dramatic effect. That's going to move us on to our next room. Attack this guy with a sword with a batarang. That's like the one other thing they're useful for. If the sword guy is in sword swallow animation, if you hit him with a batarang, it takes away half his life. So it's pretty decent for that, I suppose. It's just so rare that happens because if you miss it, he gets to block it. You don't want that either. Did not want to get hit by that. We're going to test tube here because those guys tend to be pretty problematic. This one guy always shows up at the end no matter what you do. He's always the last guy to spawn. You can't force him to spawn earlier. Pretty mean. Cool, he threw it. That guy can't hold that bomb and really cause problems. Have this guy come in with an explosive. Move I haven't talked about a lot is Noggin Knocker. You saw me do it there. It's a double team move, does really, really good damage to everything it hits. And it's really good at creating space between enemies. Not good if you want to group enemies, but there I didn't want to. I just wanted to make sure they were just going to not be a nuisance. Let that guy get hit. This section's a little mean. These guys are going to come in and try to rocket me. I'm going to block this one here just because it's easier, plus I'm Batman. Cool, that guy actually came up. It's rare that he does that, actually. A little bit of slow rep there. For our last test tube, we're going to go ahead and drop it here because those guys are separate. Take out these last two clowns, go to our boss. Now we're going to alter up the infinite a little bit to be able to just go to one punch instead of 3 hits. If I do this properly, Strongman is not going to be able to get out of this. Good stuff. I tell this story a lot, but the first day I was able to do that was the day I got into speedrunning. Being able to do that just kind of meant everything to me. It was incredible. Alright, stage 3. This stage, unfortunately, for the first couple rooms is kind of boring. The second room has a couple cool platforming tricks, and the first room is an auto-scroller, but there is one thing that makes this less boring. I'll get to show it off here. We have these clowns who are going to jump out of the windows, take a swing, walk to the edge of the balcony, and they're just going to do that. I guess they're just so unhappy with their life that they were unable to hit Batman. Bye. That guy we have to kill because it's faster, instead of letting him in himself. Chill out here. Do the Bat-2C. This is one advantage of the side-scrolling stages. You actually get to crouch. Can't do that in beat-em-up stages. This purple guy is my favorite, though. He's going to take a swing. I'm going to walk up to him, and then he's just going to decide to not deal with Batman. Actually, my favorite enemy in the game. Spam grapple gun, because why not? That'll move us on. Here we have another side-scrolling stage. One of the only segments of the game where we actually get to do some platforming. We're going to go a little bit of Bionic Commando style. We're going to try and zip in through there. Okay, didn't get it. That gap is really hard to clear. It's rare that I get it. Hold that position for a little bit. Really don't want this rocket to hit us, so I'm going to do this. Ah, it's unfortunate. That jump is really, really tight. If you can make it properly, then the rocket misses you and you don't get hit by the punch. It's pretty hard, though. So these guys are going to come down. Another quick elevator. There's a visual cue I'm going to be looking for when this bomb comes down. These two specific bombs here. This is going to spawn 2 more enemies. Hoping it's 2 green guys. It is. That's great. That's common and optimal. Going to drop a test tube. Finish them off. And what that does is it prevents the spawning of another one of those tall clowns that was throwing torches, who would actually be in our way if I hadn't done that. So we just get to move along fun and fancy free. Onto our boss. This is our first encounter with Catwoman. One of the hardest bosses in the game, unless I can finish her with the Touch of Death Infinite. So let's hope for the best here. I'm going to go for it. Ah, boo. Missed the last hit. That's the second time in the past couple weeks I've done that. But if you miss that, you do lose a little bit of time, but since you still have test tubes left, you can just use that to finish her off. So unfortunate that I missed it, but it's not the end of the world. It's one of the few fights where you actually get to do that. On to stage 4. This stage is a mess. It is a gigantic mess, especially this first room. It is really, really, really random, outside of this very first enemy. Similarly to what I did in TMNT, I'm going to wait for more enemies to spawn to see what the game is going to allow me to do. That's unfortunate. Oof, that guy's being a serious troll. That's not going to mess things up too much with the rest of the audio cues, but it did allow me to show off the fact that you only had to fight 2 enemies there if you're able to manipulate it correctly. That's unfortunate. The big guys falling from the sky like that is never fun, just because, as you can see when they fall, they have hitboxes, and getting 3 of those at once is probably the worst RNG you can get here. Got another one here, another one here. One of the Naga Knocker there. Alright, so I'm at least on good pace coming out of that room, but I did take a lot of damage. So I'm going to anticipate having to take a death on the boss. That was also unfortunate. I was trying to battering that guy so I could deal some extra damage to him. Unlike the first room, this room is actually completely fixed. I just messed up the execution there. Did that battering a little bit too late. Take that guy out, drop another test tube. These enemies are spread out way too far apart and have way too much health for me to want to deal with them otherwise. So test tube it is. Let those guys line up, let these guys spawn, drop a test tube. That test tube strat actually makes me sad because there used to be a really cool grab setup that I had for that segment, but I don't get to use it anymore because test tube's just faster. On to our second Catwoman fight, it was actually easier. We are going to have a slightly different ending. Until then, we're just going to throw left jabs until she's numb. Waiting for her, that's not good. Well, bad day for the Infinite, I suppose. But at least this means I may do better on the Penguin fight now. Oh my goodness. So it's cold in here. I only need one more hit. I'm just not playing this well. Okay, so we tossed her to the left there for a reason. Reason being, it lands her closer to the Ice Princess. If we knocked her to the right, she would take a long time to walk to there. And we don't want that, so just toss her to the left instead. I've never used the cold hands excuse before, but yeah, my hands are actually freezing. Being able to do YR alternating tap rhythm with cold hands is not my favorite thing. So for Penguin here, pretty much have to treat this like a Mega Man boss fight in a way. Another fight where all you have is batarangs for your offense, similar to what we had with Stun Gun at the beginning of the game. Penguin's also just a huge troll. He drops these umbrellas that are explosive. They do pretty decent damage. The big obstacle to worry about is him actually hitting you. He does about as much damage as the Wily alien from Mega Man 2 hugging you. But not a great fight since I did take a death. Stage has not been kind to me in that regard, but not too terrible. He's finished. We'll move on to our next stage. Quick cutscene where the bats come out to knock the Ice Princess off the building. The story reason for that was because Penguin utilized bats to be able to scare her to her death in order to frame Batman. He wanted to make Batman look like the villain in all this. So moving on, our goal here is we have to track down Penguin's campaign van since he's running for mayor of Gotham. There was actually a speed strat that was discovered earlier this year by, it was last year, sorry, by another runner of this game named West Point Steve. If you hold up during this stage, you actually get to have the Batmobile go turbo. Like, it just goes a lot faster. I wasn't quite certain how much time that was going to save, and then the first time I ran that on, I can't remember if it was this difficulty or easy difficulty, it saved 13 seconds. So it was pretty huge having that be an actual thing. It was also the first strat that made easy percent fairly easy to get sub 2230 because it wasn't prior to that. Jeez, shouldn't be contending with those. Taking a little bit more damage than I would like. This stage can get really scary if you've taken a lot of damage up to this point. Especially after the boss fight. The boss fight's just a total firefight. You have to make sure you kill him before he can kill you. As long as I stay in the middle, nothing should really interact with me, but I still have to take some precautions. Rockets on Mania are a real problem. They don't have true homing capability, but it's pretty close. Alright, yeah, this is looking kind of grim. So for these guys, I'm going to still turbo just to make sure I can stay in line with them, but I'm just going to do my best to not get hit by rockets and not fire at them. Their health is way too high anyway. I never anticipate taking these guys out. So earlier, we'll just call it what I utilized there, just bad habits, I guess. Get quite enough of those. Those are only worth points, but they can lead to extra lives, so it's nice to have them. So here you have the van. This fight's pretty annoying, especially because you have to be able to dodge all these shots and just get in more damage than he's going to get on you. With the health that I have right now, I'm not feeling particularly safe at the moment, and there's a very good chance I'm going to take a death unless I just land a lot of really lucky shots. Like from here, I just have to hit him more than he hits me, and that's going to be hard because these rockets are really, really strong with their tracking. Yep, that's what I thought. I took way too much damage early. The first segment of the bikers with the boss health, they just hit me way too much for me to feel safe about it. So I had to redo this section. It is going to cost me probably anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute. I should still be underestimated, but it's still unfortunate that happened. This fight's really, really scary on this difficulty.
Can I use this opportunity to plug in some incentives?
Yes, you can.
All right.
Perfect time.
So guys, we're holding this marathon to bring Ohan, Beko, and Prezi to the AGDQ 2020. And we have some incentives in the marathon coming up. The closest one is Dragon Quest Heroes Rocket Slime. You can choose the name of the slime. We have no donations yet for this one, so you can just grab it right now. Coming up a little later, we have one for Chocobo Racing to have an additional Final Fantasy VIII track being played. The goal is just $30. It doesn't have any donations right now, but since it's so low, it's pretty quick. You can hit this goal really easily. And we have one for streamers. That's gonna be an extra run of Super Joe mode after the run that's already scheduled. Also $30. All right. Thank you, Rock, for letting me interrupt you.
Thank you, Cassio. Alright, so this is the train. Another fairly trolly stage. One of the harder stages if things go wrong, for sure. I've had a pretty good bout of runs for this stage in particular recently. A couple of things to show off. If you go to the very top pixel, similar to what I showed off in Turtles, it's actually a magic pixel. You're not invincible to everything, but the bombs that are being thrown by the motorcycles in the back, they won't hit you. Like they'll always just phase right through you, so it's pretty cool. I guess that was just a Konami thing to do. We're gonna get some good grouping with that. Guys with the bowling pins can be a nuisance. It's also one of the few uses for Batmobiles on Mania is that you can hit them and knock the bowling pins away. Just see this guy, I'm gonna knock him down. Just do that. You're here, this segment's pretty specific in that we're gonna have these rails that are gonna come in and try to hit us. We can block them and take a little bit of chip damage. Let other enemies get hit. They can't block, but this guy can actually jump them. Okay, that actually works. So unfortunately I got knocked down, but better be knocked down by that than the rail, I think. Okay. Now I've got a sweet spot here. I'm going to try to set up a final combo on these guys. Managed to get it. That's really good. Also feeling a little weary here because I'm pretty low on lives as it is, but I did get this big health up item to move me on to the finale of the train, which is pretty cool. That was actually a pretty quick train. I'm kind of amazed it went that fast. But for our boss, we have another boss we can kill with an infinite. We have to set up a pretty specific sweet spot here because he's got his boys here to try to interrupt us. Our goal is to make sure that doesn't happen by just making sure we can keep this in lock for as long as possible. That's another life, that's good. Probably want that for the end. Yeah, that can be a really scary fight if he breaks out. When he has less than half health, he gains this drastic speed increase to where you basically just can't catch him unless you're trying to grab him. He'll dodge punches and the like all the time if he's in that mode. So pretty glad we were able to get away, make sure that didn't happen. For our last stage, gonna start with a bit of a nip. Hopefully he walks up. He did. That's great. Knocked him down, and this puts him in group formation for that. Really good grouping there, too. A couple bazooka guys here. These guys are going to be annoying, especially the ones that actually stay on stage. This one. Then one more motorcycle dude's going to pop in here, another batarang. Starting about here, we're going to have a despawn strat that I hope I'm going to be able to do. It's really, really hard. And I haven't been able to get it today, and that time was no exception. What should have happened is if I had been able to get it, what would have happened was the motorcycle guy would have despawned the fire clown that he collided into, and would have spawned that second motorcycle immediately. Take out these guys for a move on. This is by far the most dangerous segment of the stage, or it begins one of the most dangerous segments. These missiles that the penguins in the background are shooting have homing capability. So there's a very, very good chance they're just going to do enough chip damage to kill us without, like, any remorse or effort. It's really lame. Oddly enough, I actually do have a decent amount of health here for what I'm expecting in this game to do. Not surprised I took a death there, though. A death at that specific segment is very common. I'm just kind of upset I didn't try to take it earlier, because it could have just been intentional. That was unfortunate. Scary thing about these big clowns is they have this 1-2 combo that is a natural combo. Like, as soon as the first punch hits you, the second punch is guaranteed, and it's also a guaranteed knockdown, so it turns off your setup advantages real fast. Speaking of setups, that's the whole reason I just did that. Okay, took a little bit of health there for that. Alright, this is going to be a little bit quirky. Probably going to take a death here as well, so I just can't survive that kind of chip damage. The upside is that the missiles will hit the enemies while I'm dead for a little bit of damage. Not enough to really, really matter, but it helps. Every little bit, you know? Thankfully, this is the final segment of penguin missiles. On lower difficulties, this part isn't quite so bad, because the rockets only just go in, like, one specific place, whereas here they actually will follow you. The only way to dodge them is through iframes, either with, like, by doing your throw, which grants iframes, or by doing your extra joy, which has the risk of hitting enemies, and it's also really hard to time to dodge the missiles. For this last segment of the first room, we're just going to drop enough test tubes to be able to clear out all the rest of the enemies. Should be able to finish them off in 4. And that'll do it. Actually, I have a good number of lives here, so that's good. Final 2 bosses. First, we're going to start with the duck vehicle. Get your quacks out. It also quacks when you hit it, which is great. Love that. This is all just about getting a good fire rate, and mine hasn't been very good. Take a lot of unnecessary hits there. Probably going to lose fast cycle because of this. Jeez, did not want to land there that quickly. Alright, that was a really, really bad duck fight, but it's not the end of the world. Missiles aren't going to hit us, at least. Alright, for Penguin, another infinite boss. It's our final boss, too, and it's about 70 hits of this. So all I'm going to ask is just wish me the best. Speaking, I'd already dropped it, God. Hands are freezing. Good old cold hands. Did that to dodge it. Alright, so again, if he gets out of this, he can be a real issue. As you can see, he gets to just fly around and go invincible, and we'll see it again. The Infinite's really, really hard to maintain on Penguin, unfortunately. Because there's not a big wide gap of frames where you can get that on them. I'm just having a really, really bad day with the execution, I guess. It's not easy. God. I normally, even when I do bad, I don't do this bad. But at least we'll be able to get a 1cc out of it, right? Alright, that'll finish that off. And time's gonna be when screen fades to black before the cutscene, so be ready, and time. Man. Not my best marathon run of this game, but I was underestimated. My estimate was 26, so not gonna be too unhappy about that. Plus you get this cool ending cutscene where Penguin's in the back just bleeding from the nose and drops to the ground going down the elevator. Thanks for the GGs, Whale, Chelney. Admittedly, I hadn't practiced this run this week as much as I would have liked to.